let me, some preamble on this. I think all of us are aware about this national education policy, and also that before this policy came up, a lot of work was done to bring this policy to the present state. And this policy was primarily, by a very high powered committee, including experts from various areas, specifically the education, and it was being chaired by Dr. K. Kasturirangan, and it submitted its report in May 2019. Now, once this committee submitted its report, a feedback, a review, observations were invited from different stakeholders, including all the universities, many industries, experts. So finally, in the present form, you find it. What is it now before you? So this is a first education policy of the 21st century. And before that, these policies, it came up in 1968, and then finally 86, which was updated or revised in 1992. Now, if I talk about the education policy, the question is why we are now going for this policy. What is the need of such policy in our country? One of the lines that I picked up from NEP says that the aim of education will not only be cognitive development, but also building character and creating holistic and well-rounded individuals equipped with key 21st century skills. So that means we are not only to talk about the cognitive development, we are not only to talk about the development in the area of the knowledge only, we also require the character building, we also require the holistic development of our graduates, and they must have the 21st century skills. So this question again poses that are we not doing it today, and why we should do it? See, now there is a more stress on the cognitive development. We are more talking about the knowledge, we are more assessing the knowledge, rather sometimes we are over assessing. But the point is, when the graduates, they go to the market, they face the outside world, it is not only the cognitive skills that count, it is also the affective domain of the education, it is also the behavioral domain of the education. And whatever knowledge we are talking, that knowledge landscape is also changing. There are a lot many technological, there are a lot many scientific developments, advances over a period of time. We are now more talking about the current technologies, the cutting edge technologies in terms of robotics that you are studying, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, data mining, and so on. Similarly, apart from this education scenario, apart from this knowledge landscape, there is a sea change in other aspects also that is being. Climate change is there. So you must be seeing in news these days that how the scorching heat is there in some parts of US and Canada, and what is happening there. There is increased pollution. The natural resources are slowly depleting. So that means our education system must also include all these things which are primarily now interdisciplinary in nature, so that everyone has got this base idea or the basic knowledge about all these things. I hope all of you agree. Apart from that, you see the growing emergence of pandemics like Corona. So there need to be development in form of the collaborative research. Robotic surgery we have been talking now. So don't we want to give it a more boost? So these things can only be there once you say that, yes, now it is not only engineering, it is also including some aspects of medical if you want to take research into that area. It might include some aspects of agriculture if you want to do research in that area. So that is only possible when this holistic change is there. Similarly, there is a change in the landscape of the employment also. The industries not only or never wanted only toppers. So there are a lot of things, and if I talk about in broad terms of the outcomes, then we say it is the knowledge domain, it's the skill domain, it's the behavioral domain. These are the three things: the value addition, the ethics, that are going to count over the years if you have to face the outside world. So the whole global system, the whole ecosystem of employment is also changing. Children not only learn, but more importantly, learn how to learn. So that is important. Now, if these changes are coming at this particular point, when someone is 20 years old, someone is 50 years old. So we must know how to unlearn, how to learn, and how to relearn. So that is a skill again. It's not a knowledge, it's a skill. So what we want is that the bulky bags of our students should not be there now. Less towards the content, more towards the thinking, more towards the critical examination, more towards the problem solving, more towards the innovation, adaptability, new ideas, change management, and so many things. So if you have to do all these things, then what is expected? It is expected that the curriculum must include the basic arts, the crafts, the humanities, games, sports, and all these related fields. As on date, if somebody wants to take vocational studies in 11th or 12th class, nobody knows what is it. Where this road is going. So this policy tries to bring out those things together so that the education is now more well-rounded, useful, and fulfilling. We are now more talking about the ethical aspects. We are more talking about the pride of being Indian. We are also talking about the developments that have already been taken place in the olden days, how we are going to revive them. Is there any syllabus which is compulsorily talking about these concepts? No. So we have to incorporate those things in our curriculum, and then we must ensure that the fulfilling human being is developed as a result of the graduation. Not only that computer, that knowledge box. No, we want that all those things should be there, and for that holistic development is required. We also need to access the challenges. We also need to address the challenges of access to the education, equity in education, quality in education, affordability, and accountability, which our current education system is primarily facing. So due to these reforms, we want this change at all levels, from the school to the higher education level. Of course, it is giving more stress on the early childhood care and the reforms. And of course, it is talking about the restructuring of the education regulatory framework. So how this can be done? This can be done when you reduce the gap between the current state of learning outcomes and what is required. So what is now and what is expected, that has to be abridged through major reforms that bring the highest quality, equity, and integrity into the system. From early childhood care, that is a pre-nursery or a preschool level, to the throughout the higher education. Now, there is also a global need for this. I'm sure that you people are aware about the Sustainable Development Goals. So this NEP is also proposing revision and revamping the all aspects, including the governors, so that it is aligned with the goals of the SDG 4 of the 21st century, to which India is also a part. So I hope you know these goals. And there are 17 such goals, and India adopted it in 2015. And one of this specific goal of education, it refers to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. So this is what is the focus of this particular education goal. And apart from that, just for your knowledge, these are the other goals from 1 to 17. So fourth one you see is relating to the education part. Okay. So now this is the vision of this policy. Some of the things we're already discussing. So I'm not going to read them. It envisions an education system rooted in the Indian ethos. That's what I have been talking. We are more talking about the equitable and vibrant knowledge society. We must a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental duties, towards the constitutional values that somehow we are missing right now. And bonding with own country is very, very important. This bonding is going to bring a lot of change when we talk about more things like Atmanirbhar Bharat, or we call as the India as a guru. So education, knowledge guru. So those things will only be coming when you have these things embedded in your system itself. These are some of the policies of this principle of this policy. So we will be discussing them as and when they are coming. So they are more talking about the foundation literacy, capabilities for the student, flexibility, multidisciplinary, holistic education, concept understanding, critical thinking, ethics we have talked about. So these are some of the points in which we are discussing in this particular policy. I am not going to read out these principles of policy, that you can refer to them, but we will be talking about them in between also. So let me talk about some of the key features in the NEP 2020. So before I start, I would like to just have a feedback, or just have to check with you that since this policy has come now, for some time now. So how much do we understand about this policy? That what is this policy going to give us? So I just want some of you to speak up about that. How much you know about this education policy, or what do you think that what this education policy is bringing in for our country? Yes. I hope you all are available and ready for. No, I want it more to be a discussion, more to be a our interaction, so that whatever is given in that NEP 2020, we all can learn something out of that. That how it is going to bring change, because you all are teachers. So at the end of the day, you all have to be involved, or you must be involved also in bringing out this change. So what do you what is your say on this policy? How much you know about this policy? Can somebody start the discussion? If you do not know anything, let us say no. I am going to tell you everything, in a nutshell. So I would like to know if some of us have some idea about this policy. Somebody can speak on this. Sudeep, I could see your name first. Sudeep Patri. Any idea on this?
No, sir.
No idea. So you would like to know more about this, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Kavita Mishra says no idea, sir. Good. Let us have some idea, no problem. Anyone else? Amit Chaudhary, Sulender. Our colleague Sulender is there. Vishal Gupta, Varun Bhatnagar. I can see lot many names. Dr. Rajiv Ranjan. Asjad Siddiqui. See, dear friends, this is a policy for us, specifically for the teachers. We have to implement it. So unless we know the basic idea about this, how can we implement that? Because the implementation part has to come from all of us. Sooner or later, we will have to be involved in this. And if we are not involved, we do not know what is going to happen for the future education, that is also not good. So if, or should I presume that you people are having no idea about NEP 2020? Kamal Goel, I can read one name here, just in front of me. Okay. So what I will do is, I will give you just an overview of this policy, and my specific discussion would be on the higher education, since all of us belong to higher education. So my focus discussion will be on the higher education, but yes, I will touch other topics also that are included in this. Okay. Okay. My screen is visible. Are you able to see my screen?
No, sir, your screen is not visible, sir.
Screen is not visible. Now I think it is visible. Eh?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
So let us talk about the major aspects of the key features in this. So one of the important aspects is about the school education. And in school education, it talks more about the early childhood care and education. So that we will be using that ECCE. So there are guidelines for the parents and the teachers for children up to 3 years, you will see. So that means going for the improvement in the Anganwadi system, or the nursery or the Balvatika, and the Right to Education Act 2009 has already covered age between 3 to 18 years instead of 6 to 14, which was earlier. And the school framework, instead of 10+2, it is now 5-3-3-4. So the fundamental stage, the preparatory stage, the middle stage, and the secondary stage. So these are the primarily four parts. So 5 years for the fundamental stage and preparatory, middle, and the secondary stage. And of course, it emphasizes that the root system has to go away. Not much about knowledge, remembering only. It has to talk about the critical thinking also, and reforms in the examination system, and the capabilities are to be enhanced. So when I talk about 5-3-3-4 system, so this is what this I have taken from the NEP only. So we talk in the foundation, we talk 3+2. So that is the between age 3 to 6, and then 2 years ahead, that is class 1 and 2. So Anganwadi or the preschool or the Balvatika plus class 1 and 2. So this comprises the foundation stress. So this is the stress that is being given here, and even the scientific facts help us to tell that there is exponential learning growth in this particular age. So more stress has to be given in this. It has to be more streamlined. It has to be more formalized. It has to be more systematic way. Now also every parents, schools are there, preschools are there, but anyhow some systematic things are not there. So those have to be compiled in a simple way. And then preparatory is class 3 to 5. So 1-2 was there in foundation. 3 to 5 is in the preparatory, and then class 6 to 8 it talks about the middle part, and finally class 9 to 12 as the secondary part, that is for the 4 years. So this is the 5-3-3-4 structure that this NEP talks about. And apart from this, in school education, as I told you, there is a strong stress on the base in terms of early childhood care and education, and this all will be taken up when it is developed by NCERT in terms of the national curricular and pedagogical framework for the early childhood care. Similarly, we have been talking about the standalone preschools or the pre-primary schools. So those have to be strengthened, and those have to be the system actually has to be strengthened and expanded in a way. And the purpose is to curtail the dropout rates and ensure universal access to the education at all levels. So it has been found that as you grow higher in class, there is a more dropout rate. So that dropout rate is primarily to be controlled. So for that reason, these things are brought into the similarly, we have already discussed some part of this. Learning should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. And there has to be more flexibility. Of course, some flexibility is there, but that empowerment, that flexibility has to be given more to the students in this regard. And no hard separation between the curricular, extracurricular, co-curricular, and the arts and humanities or sciences. Okay. So I think this is one part, and specifically, there has to be more stress on the vocational part, so that those who don't want to go for science streams or commerce or streams like this, they can choose the vocational streams. And they will only be able to choose this stream once there is a clear road visible to them. So that if that clear road is visible to them, then only they will be able to take these particular streams. Then subjects like physical education, arts, crafts, etc., they will be incorporated. Of course, science, humanities, mathematics, they all will be there throughout the school curriculum, with a consideration of what is interesting and safe at each stage. So accordingly, these things are to be incorporated. Okay, and this is about the teacher management and B.Ed program, which is 4 years. So let us skip this at this particular time. And the regulation of schools is also going to be changed in a way for a new accreditation framework and a regulatory body which is going to regulate both the public and the private schools. So now it is directly with the government and that, but that body is not there. A new and comprehensive national curriculum framework for teacher education would be coming in consultation with the National Council of Teacher Education, NCTE. Let us come to the key features of higher education, which is more to our interest. Now, in higher education system, there are a lot of changes that are being proposed in this new education policy. One of the major key feature that is expected is the institutional restructuring and the consolidation. So now what we are having is, so for example, we are having a technical education system, we are having a higher education system, we are having a vocational education system. This policy talks about merger into one coherent ecosystem. So everything has to be under one system, higher education, no separation out of the technical or the vocational education separately. The purpose is because now we are talking about the integrated part when we are talking about the university also. We are now talking more about the multidisciplinary universities. We are now more talking about the multidisciplinary institutions, and more specifically, we are now going to go away with the system of agriculture university or law university or technical university or affiliative university or standalone university. No, it has to be a single university, which would be, the name would be university or a multidisciplinary education institution. So not only you can say that we are going only for engineering courses or only technical courses, everything has to be there, or I should say most of the things have to be there. Why? So that there is a more and more research conducive and vibrant culture. Now, as I was telling you, if some of the research scholars, some of the MTech students, or some of the students who are working into the robotics area, if they want to do some developments in the area of the robotic surgery, or in the medical field, now a lot of effort has to be done. So to bring some ease in that process, not only this, even if you want to do something in agricultural area, then also you have difficulty. So why to have all these things separately? Why not to have at a single space, at a single place, so that the big institutions or the multidisciplinary institutions in the country will be of 3 types. One will be research intensive university, where the focus would be on the research. One is a teaching intensive university, where the focus will be on the teaching. And third is the autonomous degree granting colleges. So there will be either be constituent colleges of the university or the degree granting colleges. So those colleges who are now affiliated colleges, they have to be mentored, they have to be more guided in a way. Why? Because there would be phasing out of the single stream HEIs. Single stream HEI, I hope you understand. So phasing out of the affiliations colleges, system of the affiliation colleges within a period of 15 years. So the target is that by 2035, there would not be any affiliated colleges. There would only be research intensive university, teaching intensive university, or the autonomous degree granting colleges. And these three categories that I have told you, they are also not rigid. Autonomous colleges over a period of time can switch on to a teaching university. So the target is that such institutions will be at least one in every district of the country. That is what is the target. Of course, there can be more also, and there can be more in those areas where now colleges or universities, they do not go because some difficult areas, some far-reaching areas. So this is what is the one of the major key features of the your national education policy, which we call as the institutional restructuring and the consolidation. This is a challenge. So this is going to affect all of us in some way or the other. So any questions on this? Any discussion on this you would like to have with me? Anything you would like to discuss on this point? On how do we go for institutional restructuring consolidation? What is the meaning? Mostly things I have tried to tell you, but still, if there is any doubt, you can very well come up. Okay. So next we talk about is in the higher education system only is the holistic disciplinary education. So the very important part is the flexibility and innovative curricula. So that means we are now talking about the choice-based credit system, but then this has to be expanded in such a way, in such a flexibility that number one, it is not only a letter, it is in spirit also. How many elective subjects do you have in your curriculum and how many of them you are floating? Do you have any elective subject or maybe any flexibility in terms of the geography? Some engineering student want to take intents to have some subject on law that not only in terms of the this or the subjects, it is also to be in terms of the duration, so that there can be entry and exit system. So multiple entry, we all know the example of students. Students can enter first year also, second year also for doing engineering. Exit system
Hello.
Yeah, now I think it is okay. Some internet issue was there, I think, in between for a minute.
Yes, sir. But your screen sharing has been off, sir. Please do it now again.
Pardon?
सर आपकी स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं हो रही है अभी भी.
हाँ, वो दोबारा कनेक्शन हुआ है ना एकदम कट के. अभी करो.
हाँ जी सर, फिर से कर लीजिए.
Okay. So I
जी
think I
सर.
was talking on the. I think I have given example about BSc, MSc. I think all that you were listening. I don't know when the internet went away. So what I was saying is that flexibility. Say if a BSc degree can be of 3 or 4 years. If it is 3 years, it is BSc. If it is 4 years, it is BSc with research. One who has done BSc with 3 years, he will do MSc for 1 year. One who has done BSc for 4 years, one who has done BSc for 3 years would do MSc for 2 years. If you have done MSc, if you have done BSc for 3 years and if you are doing MSc for 2 years also, after first year of MSc you got some problem, or maybe marriage, of a girl student or anything else can be there. So you want to give a gap of 3 years. You give a gap of 3 years, again come back and join the second year. That is actual flexibility. So those types of things would be incorporated, in entry and exit system. And then there is a credit transfer policy. You could do some courses from one university, some courses from other university, and all these your credits will be maintained like a bank, which will be known as ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credits. So these types of flexibility and holistic education we are talking about. Yes, apart from that, our education has values, the core values, the values for our country, the ethical system. AICT has started a course on universal human values. Many of the teachers or students might have attended that. We need to give a feeling of pride for our country. Actually, we should not give, but then we have to give because it is required. So not only, I'm again saying, it is not only knowledge and knowledge, it is not only books and books. It has to be a holistic concept in the education also. And apart from that, we have to compete the outside world. We have to be competitive in the global terms. So knowledge about the cutting edge areas, artificial intelligence, 3D and all those things, not only this engineering part area, biotech also, nanotechnology also, neuroscience also. So options should be there. Now these options are going to explore the horizons for those students who want to learn out of the box. They do not have to visit to other countries or like this to study all these things. So those types of options have to be provided, and they can only be provided when there is a revamping of the system, when there is a holistic development in the curriculum design, and there is a linking with the other disciplines. So that linking we already talked about. We are talking about neuroscience and all these things. So that linking has to be there, and all the engineering degree or diploma, they would be primarily under the one which you call as the multidisciplinary education institution. Fine. So this is about our multidisciplinary education. Any questions, any doubt on this, or I move ahead? Okay. So if there are no questions, then we talk about the optimal learning environment and support for students. This is another major portion of this. Learning environment has to be conducive, all of us understand. Unless there is a environment, unless there is a culture where quality is embedded in the system, it will not be possible to bring out that holistic education part. There has to be innovation in the matters of curriculum and the pedagogy. There has to be independence for the teacher also, for the student also. When a subject is there, that subject can be taught simultaneously by 3 teachers. It is up to the student to whom he or she wants to join. Innovation has to be in terms of the pedagogy also. A teacher should develop and innovate its own ways for teaching. Whatever is suitable for class. That would depend what type of subject you are teaching. Are you talking about history, or are you talking about nanoscience? So all those things are going to come when there is a provision of such innovation in our system. Vibrant campus life has to be there so that you can bring in the holistic development in the students. Sports, yes, you will say it is there. Cultural, arts activities, clubs, eco clubs, everything is there. Most of the things are there. But then, are there any credits for them? We do not allow our students sometimes to attend all these activities because there is no time. Their attendance will become short. So that means we do not have any marks, any credits, any periods for the community service. So how and why a student would learn that how to, how to have a feeling of empathy, how to go to adopted village. Why not to go to adopted village once or twice in a semester compulsory for every student do some service? So all these things are to be developed in a systematic way in our system, so that our students, they do become busy in all these things, in counseling part also. So that counseling has to be from the counselors, from the senior students to the junior students, from the teachers to the students, and so on and so forth. So that students, they are busy in some productive way. And that is only possible, again I am saying, when there are open learning environments. There has to be, there is more stress that is given on the, in addition to this, on the open distance learning and the online education. Already UGC and AICTE, they have come up with the policies where new colleges can also go for this open distance learning and online education. But of course, with some quality parameters, with some accreditation, and it is going to count towards the gross enrollment ratio to the GER, which is presently 26, and our target is 50. Internationalization of the campuses abroad. Foreign students. How do those foreign students will come to India? How do our universities, they open up the campus in the say in some country abroad? How do those foreign universities, they open up their campuses here? So all those things would be worked out with, of course, some graded autonomy and some quality parameters, and there is a focus on this part also. And then there is a focus on the support to the students who belong to socio-economically disadvantaged groups. Those students could be under this category due to any reason. They could be due to some social region. They could be due to some geographical area, urban, reachability, village, some gender, some disadvantaged groups in terms of differently abled. So whatsoever it is, a very strong support has to be given to this such type of group. That is also a part of this policy. And then there has to be continuous formative assessment. We are talking about two types of assessment. One is summative and one is continuous. Summative is summation कर देना उसका, एक बार में पूरे एग्जाम ले लेने पूरे साल भर या सेमेस्टर भर, and last में no, that is summative. It is more talking about the formative assessment, more talking about the continuous assessment. So this is what is about the optimal learning environment and the support for the students. So any questions on this before I move on to the next slide? Okay. So not much on this. The 4 structures under Higher Education Commission of India. This is about the transformation of transforming the regulatory body. So one will be National Higher Educational Regulatory Council. One would be National Accreditation Council. then Higher Education Grants Council and General Education Council. Of course, some of these bodies we have been talking about for the grants, they are going to stay. DST and other such bodies, they are going to stay. But then there is going to be a lot of change in the regulatory system. Fine. Then some more areas of importance that have been covered. Very strong pillar: motivated, energized, and capable faculty. So faculty is the main pillar for all these activities, for the implementation also, for the development also. And then they have to be motivated, they have to be energized. Their professional growth has to be taken care. Their knowledge upgradation, their skill upgradation, that has to be taken care. To give a conducive environment for teaching and making the teachers happy, the classes have to be upgraded. Upgraded not only in terms of furniture and blackboard, upgraded also in terms of the technology. The use of the ICT is conducive. I might be talking about things like projectors, video projectors, or say the digital boards also. So internet access, so those types of things have to be there. Better STR, better student-teacher ratio, is going to help the teachers to put in some more time towards their own professional activities, towards their own research, towards their own paper writing, towards their own patents and consultancy and so many things. There is to be minimal transfers. So it is talking about the holistic system in the government system also, so that at a single place a teacher is able to understand, spend more time, and then give more to that particular school of that particular college. A system of recognition and accountability has to be there. Then is the reimagining vocational education. The vocational education, number one, it is to be included in the GER. So those who opt for vocational education, they will be included in this. The connections have to be there. Schools are to collaborate with ITIs, maybe the ITIs with the polytechnics with the engineering or the universities. And those BVOC systems those started in 2013 or so, they are going to stay. And these vocational courses would also be available for the other degree programs, so that there would be option for the student, which as of now, it's probably not there in most of the systems, but then that option would also be there in the graduation. Then there is a talk about the National Research Foundation in the quality academic research, and based on that, some state level things, and then funding, and then projects. So of course, the existing agencies are going to stay or they're going to continue. Then it talks about the effective governance and leadership. Governing bodies, their systems have to be improved. When we talk about phasing out of the affiliating system, so that means those colleges, they have to be mentored. The use of technology and integration in our education system is very important. So digital infrastructure, online and digital education, already some percentage, maybe 20% has already been allowed by regulatory body, so that you can go through the SWAYAM courses for your students. Similarly, there are a lot of other platforms, NPTEL and all these are there, part of SWAYAM platform now. Diksha is another platform. Then there is which of course is for school also. Then there is our virtual labs, SWAYAM Prabha, so ePathshala. So those types of online and digital education system are to be given more stress. So more exposure have to be given to the students and the teacher, and as far as possible, we need to go for the online assessment. Okay. So, dear colleagues, these are some of the targets that we are talking about NEP 2020. 2025, at least 50% of the learners, they get exposure to the vocational education. 2030, multidisciplinary HEI is at least one in or near every district. So that is the target for the next 10 years. 100% GR in the preschool to the secondary level. And of course, that increase in GR from 26% of the higher education, including vocational education, the target is 50% by 2035. And already we discussed that with the next 15 years, phasing out of the system of ability colleges. So the aim is to become multidisciplinary education and have larger student enrollments by 2040, and also by 2040 to have an education system that is second to none, with equitable access to the high quality education for all. So these are some of the targets of NEP 2020. And this is how we start to work for the implementation on this major 12 pillars. Not separate, rather synergic working has to be there, coordinated working has to be there, and we have to see that how we will be able to cope up with the targets of the NEP. These are all the parts that we have already discussed somewhere or the other. And vocational education as a special case is also given here, apart from the higher education and apart from the school education. So it focuses more that how we can go more into the vocational education. As of now, it's less than 5% in age group of 19 to 24. So that's why there is talk of more of the vocational education in say higher education, sorry, high school also, 9 to 12, and then that is to be offered also to the 2G programs. So all this will be done in a coordinated effort through National Committee on Integration of Vocational Education, NCIVE. Right? Professional education is also separate. I had given in that, but yes, we have talked about that. Standalone universities, they are going to go away. It would be multidisciplinary institutions. Very, very important thing, say for example, if I talk about healthcare education system, it must be integrative, meaning thereby that all students of allopathic medical education must have a basic understanding of Ayurveda, yoga, naturopathy, and so on. So maybe a few weeks ago, there was a lot of discussion on TV that you must have heard about all these things. So it has to be integrated. One who has done MBBS or one who is into allopathy, it is not that you say that, okay, I don't know anything about this, or I don't care, or things like that. So the best part, because the purpose is health for all. So whatever is best, we have to take up from that particular part, and at whatever level that can be taken. Technical education, it is critical for development of the country. So that is what it talks about. And there is going to be greater demand for well-qualified manpower in these sectors. So this is what this NEP talks about in technical education. And also it stresses more into the areas of the current cutting edge technology areas. So that we have talked about. Okay. So these are the skills that might be required for 21st century. Life skills are required, sports integration into all these things, as it is going to help us in teamwork, responsibility, and so many things. Vocational skills, leadership and management skills are very important once you go to the industry. And soft skills are very important in life. So in whichever language you are able to communicate, but you must able to communicate and discuss on that particular point. Okay. So this is we can skip that. Assessment part is there. Okay, so assessment part I have already told you that it has to be it has to be more of a formative one and competency based. So not the over assessment that I earlier told you. We are assessing more of a knowledge. Are we assessing skill also? Are we assessing value also? Are we assessing the ethics also? So that assessment has also to be the balanced. Okay, and further there is a stress on the adult education, financial education, and intellectual. So this is what this new education policy majorly talks about. So these are the major areas that are there in the new education policy. So this is what I have given you as an overview. So you can always refer to the website of Ministry of Education or AICTE or UGC. So you will get a booklet on this of the National Education Policy. The complete booklet is there. So more and more details, some things to be read between the lines, all the things are probably given in that. So if there are any queries, any questions, any discussion, you are welcome for that. So let me stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, sir. Okay, participant, if you have any question, so you can type in chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask. You have the permission to unmute yourself.
I think somebody is speaking. Somebody wants to say something.
Sir, nobody is speaking. Everyone has permission to unmute themselves.
So okay, thank you. Best of
Okay,
luck
sir.
and best wishes.
Thank you very much for joining, sir, and delivering such a wonderful lecture on this recent topic, new education policy. On the behalf of organizing committee, I am thankful to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.